Point in the process, the other members of the board are invited to give comment or thoughts arising from the proceedings today.
Thank you, Governor. I'm speaking on behalf of the three private members of the board. We agree with the views of the other board members that through expenditure reductions, tax increases, the wise use of prior year surpluses, and temporary aid from the federal stimulus package, the city will be able to balance fiscal year 2010. Despite all of these multi-billion-dollar actions, the out-year gaps are expected to exceed $6 billion. Part of this is due to the continuing weak economy, but not all of it. Even if there was a recovery, the city would still face large out-year budget gaps. In listening to the two controllers and reviewing the staff report, we are struck by the seemingly uncontrollable growth in pension and debt service costs. By fiscal year 2013, pensions will account for 11% of expenditures and debt service 9%. The combined total of 20% compares to 16.8% in fiscal year 2008 and 13.2% in fiscal year 1999. On debt service cost, we understand that the mayor has taken a step to reduce growth by reducing the latest 10-year capital plan to bring it more in line with projected revenue growth. We agree with both the governor and the mayor that action must be taken to reduce the growth in pension costs and urge action on a new pension tier affecting new employees. However, a new pension tier alone is unlikely to provide sufficient relief on pension costs. Additional measures need to be considered. While not directly affecting the current budget, we continue to be concerned with the growing unfunded liability of retiree health benefits. At last year's meeting, we expressed our long-term view on the impact of not dealing with this issue and praised the city for putting $2.5 billion into the Health Benefit Trust Fund. While the city's budgeted pay-as-you-go cost will continue to grow by about $200 million a year, the unfunded liability grows by between $6 and $7 billion a year. It is now expected to reach over $96 billion by fiscal year 2013. One way to deal with this problem is to reduce costs. The mayor has made a proposal to create a 10% copay, which is a start. The other is to develop a way to add resources to the trust fund. Unfortunately, under the financial plan, resources are being drained from the fund. The Health Benefits Trust, currently at $3.2 billion, or a mere 5% of accrued liabilities, will not only fail to receive additional funding, but will suffer a drawdown of $1.1 billion over the next 4 years, leaving the fund at only $2.1 billion, or a scant 2% of liabilities at the end of fiscal year 2013. Troubling to us is that many reports on the city's financial condition treat the Health Benefit Trust Fund like it is a budget reserved to be used to close deficits. While we understand the very difficult decisions the city has made and will continue to have to make concerning budget cuts and tax increases, we believe that if you take a long-term view, it is fiscally dangerous to allow the unfunded liability to continue to grow. We urge all parties to understand the seriousness of the growing pension and debt service costs and retiree health benefits. All parties need to implement cost reduction programs already proposed and work together to develop further plans to deal with this fiscal challenge. The cost of not dealing aggressively with these issues now will be borne not by today's government officials and public employees, but by the city's neediest population, which will likely be deprived of services we can no longer afford.
Thank you. Thank all three of you for that report. Mayor, the succeeding provision offers you an opportunity for redirect relating to the responses to the 2010-2013 plan. What is your pleasure?
I think that Controller Thompson and Controller DiNapoli and Jeff Hallis all accurately described the problem that we have. We've acted fiscally responsibly. The economy is turned down. New York is probably better positioned than anybody else, but 2011 is going to be a challenge for all of us. I think Bill Thompson pointed out that the economy may in fact give us tax revenues a little bit better than what we had projected. I hope that our estimates were on the conservative side and that any surprises we have when it comes to expenses there will be that they are lower than projected and the revenues that they'll be greater than projected. That's the kind of prudence that we're supposed to have. Dealing with the Albany legislature and the unions in terms of negotiating pension changes that will save us a lot of money is going to be a great challenge. You've seen that already in your efforts, Governor, and we appreciate you starting down that path. And we have been certainly talking to the municipal unions, and will continue to do so. And I think that down the road, as everybody realizes that the 2011 projections are real, and that slightly better revenues maybe could cut $1 billion off that, some cost cutting can cut $1 billion off that, there still remains a real challenge for us down the road. The fact that we've only put a few $1 billion towards what's been estimated as a $60 billion liability for health care benefits for our municipal workforce is worrisome, and we should not walk away from doing something about that. Having said all of this, the first priority in the city is to maintain the quality of services. We must keep people safe. We must keep the quality of life up. We must keep improving our school system. And I take that as a given. Each commissioner, I've told repeatedly, has to learn to do more with less. And I think the classic case of that is our police department that continues to bring crime down with something between 3,000 and 5,000 fewer cops than we had back in 2001. The job for every commissioner is to keep improving services, but the resources that's going to be available to them, I think it's pretty obvious, are going to be less. I am convinced that we have a team in place that can do that. I think they've shown their mettle in the past, and all of them look forward to the challenges to come, and I think the public does understand it and will be working with us, as will the City Council and the state legislature. And Governor, thank you for all of your help. We cannot do it without you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As of June 30th, 2008, we have abridged some of the conditions that would lead to the imposition of another control period, whereupon to use them for evaluation purposes along with our new index. And therefore, at this point, I would ask our acting director to address us again with respect to what the recommendations of the board would be at this point in the proceeding.
Thank you, Governor. I would like to review the 5 conditions that were in the original law that would have, prior to 2008, called for an automatic reinstitution of a control period if any one of them had occurred, with the reviewing them to see whether or not the board needs to recommend reimposition of a control period to the legislature. The first condition is the city shall have incurred a deficit of in excess of $100 million in the results of operations. The city has in fact ended fiscal 2009 subject to final audit with a surplus of $2.8 billion and has prepaid fiscal 2010 expenses. The other conditions are the city shall have failed to pay principal or interest on any of its notes or bonds when due or payable. The city shall have issued notes in violation of the restrictions on short-term borrowing set forth in Section 9B of the Act. And the 2 controllers shall have jointly certified that they could not, on the basis of facts existing at the time of such certification, make the joint certification required to terminate the control period. In English, that means that the 2 controllers certify that the city has sufficient market access to meet its needs. The city has paid all principal and interest on its notes and bonds and has not violated any of the short-term borrowing provisions of the FEA. I have also received letters from the state and city controllers informing me that they do not see any likelihood that they would have reason to issue a joint certification relating to market access. And the last condition is the city shall have violated any provisions of the Act, and such violation substantially impairs the ability of the city to pay principal or interest on its bonds or notes when due and payable, or the city's ability to adopt or adhere to a balanced operating budget. The city has not violated any provisions of the Act. The staff therefore recommends that the board approve a resolution determining that as of July 27, 2009, none of the events which would have required the imposition of a control period has occurred, nor is there a substantial likelihood and imminence of such occurrence, and that the city is not experiencing fiscal stress that would jeopardize the orderly functioning of the city's fiscal affairs.
Therefore, Mr. Executive Director, I infer that you do not have letters from either the city or state controller maintaining that they would jointly certify that we would not be in compliance with your recommendation.
You're going to try to do the double negatives on
Right.
it. Yes, the two controllers have certified that there is market access.
Would either of the controllers wish to comment on their letters?
They were good letters.
Good. Would anyone else like to comment on the recommendation? Therefore, I would offer to the board the opportunity to approve the recommendation as it is issued.
So moved. Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. At this point, I would offer a motion to adjourn the 2008 meeting of the New York State Financial Control Board. Second? Who's first?
First.
First. All right. All in favor? Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you.